awareness session about various topics ranging from social engineering to email phishing attacks. So this is one of our awareness sessions. So the focus for today's topic is cyber threats on
Naman, sorry to
pharmacy
interrupt.
and
Can you please start the recording? Yeah, I think it is started.
yeah, the
Okay, okay,
recording is
sorry.
going on.
Please continue.
Yeah. The topic for today is going to be cyber threats on pharmaceutical and healthcare industries. So before I start, let me tell you about a topic known as personally identifiable information, also known as PII. So all the information about whether be it your medical records, whether be it your travel history, your financial records, your credit score, for example, all of these come under personally identifiable information. So you may be thinking like, why am I focusing on personally identifiable information all of a sudden? So first, let me show you a video which would give you some context. Just a second. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for calling Hot and Fast Pizzas. Can I want to order a pizza.
Can you all hear this? The video?
The audio is low. Can you please increase the volume or something?
Surely, sir. Can I have your multipurpose identification number?
One second. Yeah, it's RSP 06031983MI.
Thank you for the number, sir. Am I speaking with Mr. Rajneesh Aspuri from Baikula, Mumbai?
Yes.
The number from which you're calling is 9191930484 and your residential number is 22223244.
Yes. But how do you know all this?
We are connected to the system, sir. We have all the related information.
Good, good. I want to order a regular size seafood pizza.
Sure, sir. But that's not a good idea.
What do you mean?
As per your last medical records at Bombay Hospital, dated 9th August 2015, you have high blood pressure and a high cholesterol level, sir.
What are you saying?
As I said, we are connected to the system, sir.
Oh shit. Okay. Then what would you recommend?
Try a low-fat super vegetarian Mexican pizza. You will like it.
And how can you say that?
As you borrowed a book titled Popular Mexican Food from National Library last month, which is overdue to be returned, sir.
Okay, I give up. See, I'm very happy. Send me one of those.
We lost the audio.
Your only active credit card of Apex Bank is over the limit and amount due is rupees 79,765 since July 2015. That's not including the late payment charges on your last cash withdrawal.
That's fine. You send the pizza. Good evening, sir. I guess I will have to go to the ATM in the next lane.
Sorry to inform, but you can't, sir. You have reached your daily cash limits, which was withdrawn at an ATM at Domestic Airport Terminal B when your wife took a flight to New Delhi today.
Damn it. How do you know?
As I said, we are connected.
Yes, you're connected to the system. You send the pizza. I'll pay by cash. How long would it take?
25 minutes, sir. But if you can't wait, as you said earlier, that you're very hungry, you can always come to our nearest outlet.
What?
As you're just 4 minutes away from our nearest outlet in your area, and you have a car of number MS01XE3484, your Kazi brand.
Oh God. How the hell you
As
know?
I said to you earlier, we are connected to the system, sir.
What the? I just bought my pizza.
Okay, your order is confirmed, sir. Anything else, sir?
Nothing. Would I be getting that 3 bottle of cola mentioned in your menu?
We normally would, sir. But based on your medical records, you're also a diabetic and
Enough. Send the cola along to me.
I request you, please do not use such language, sir. You were convicted on 13th March 2015 for using abusive language to a policeman. And you were also arrested for misbehaving with a lady in a party.
Shut up. Just hello.
Good evening, sir. Am I speaking with Mr. Rajneesh S. Puri?
Yes.
Sir, we have a complete anger management program which can treat your aggressive behavior.
What? Who told you that?
It's in our system.
So as you can see, how important personally identifiable information was. So the cashier who was taking the order of this person almost knew everything about him, whether be it his credit score, his medical history, the car he possesses. So all of this data is encompassed under personally identifiable information. Cybersecurity context for healthcare industry. So first I'm going to give you the context about what we are going to talk about today. Yeah. First is data protection and privacy. So suppose you are in a hospital and all the data that you have generated, for example, you are a diabetic patient or you have some heart issues. So maybe your follow-up information, your prescriptions, your heart rate, all of the data regarding you and your prescriptions and your follow-up visits, all those data come under personally identifiable information. So you as the customers expect that that your personal information like this has to be stayed secure, and no one else other than the hospital has access to such critical data, because it's personal to you, and if this data goes into the wrong hands, then it could have disastrous consequences. As in the previous video, we knew as the video that I showed you, if the data goes into wrong hands, how much control they have over us. So this comes under data protection and privacy. So to ensure that healthcare industries, pharmaceutical industries deal with customer information, deal with personally identifiable information properly, so there are some standards enforced like HIPAA and GDPR. So these two are the standards which every health organization, healthcare industry, every pharmaceutical industries have to follow. And if they fail to comply with these standards, so they have to pay heavy fines. So what this does is that it forces all these organizations, all these industries to take care of your data and to ensure maximum security and to ensure that they aren't in part of any security breach, and your data as a customer always stays confidential. Next is sophisticated attackers. So in the recent years, ransomware attacks are rising. So as I said earlier, how crucial and how sensitive personally identifiable information is. So more and more attackers, more and more hackers are trying to target this data by using ransomware attacks. And as new technologies are in place, and as attackers are adapting to new technology, cyber criminals are becoming smarter day by day, so we need to adapt by that. Next is impacts of business transformation. So as policies like bring your own devices are being enforced, for example, in hospitals, people, whether be it employees, are bringing their own personal devices, for example, mobile phones, tablets, etc. So the risk for data breach increases. Third party risk exposure. So for example, you have gone to hospital for a pathology test. They have taken your blood sample, they have information about maybe number of platelets, hemoglobin, white blood cell counts. So what you're assuming is the data that they have with them, they're only going to use it to treat you and nothing else. So in the ideal scenario, the data would be with you and with the hospital, and it would not go anywhere else. But this data, you may not know, it's also transmitted to third parties, like maybe pharmaceutical lab for research purposes, for data analysis and stuff. So ideally this data should be confidential, but it's also given to third parties. Now, this point we are going to discuss more in the upcoming slides. Next is rapidly changing IT environment. As I said, let me introduce you the topic of IoT, Internet of Things, IoT here. So all the fitness trackers you wear, maybe your heartbeat monitoring, maybe the device that you use to calculate, to measure your blood sugar levels. So all that come under IoT devices. So as you may know, for example, if a patient is suffering from diabetes or any cardiovascular problem, so he may have many monitoring devices attached to him. For example, let's take an example. In this example, he has like a heart monitor attached to him, blood sugar level monitor, um, maybe a pulse rate monitor. So all these generate certain amount of data about your heartbeat, your pulse rate, or about your blood sugar level. As more and more data is being generated, it's our job as cybersecurity professionals to help healthcare industry secure that data, because it's very confidential data and it should not be leaked. Previously, there weren't many Internet of Things devices like heart rate monitors. In the recent years, all these devices are becoming more and more prevalent. So now it's a challenging issue to secure all this tremendous amount of data that's being generated by these devices. Yeah. So healthcare data breaches and hacks. So here is just some basic statistics about the data breaches that get in healthcare industries. Here, as you can see, Quest Diagnostics. Here it's the scale from 2009 to 2019, between the scale of 10 years. So first is Quest Diagnostics, US blood testing 11.9 million breach. This is nothing but the number of breaches, and the size of the circle basically says how much financial loss the company has suffered due to that breach, and this is basically the timeline in which the breach has taken place. As you can see, there are a ton of them. Then the cost of data breach. As we saw in the previous slides, our chart was categorized according to the cost. Here, as you can see, the global average in a data breach is 3.92 million. So basically what they're trying to say is, suppose you have been, suppose in a healthcare industry has undergone a data breach. So the average cost, the average loss the company suffered, the economic setback the company has suffered is 3.92 million, which is almost 4 million, which is way too much for an organization to suffer. And the average size of data breach is 25,575 records. So let me first tell you what records in this context means. So as I previously said, due to prevalence of IoT devices, your heartbeat, that's one record, your blood sugar level, that's one record, maybe the number of your prescription is one record, your follow-ups are one record. So on an average in a data breach, 25,575 records are being compromised, and the cost per lost record, if you divide these two numbers, the cost of per record lost is $150. So this just adds on to a story that how much devastating it's for a healthcare industry for data breach. And not only for healthcare industries, we as customers as are also very much threatened by it, because it's our personal information that's being compromised. And time to identify and contain a breach. Suppose you have an healthcare industry and there is a data breach. So on an average, it takes about 279 days to even identify that there has been a data leakage somewhere, right? So this is a huge time. For example, there is a data breach has taken place and it took you so long to just identify it. So the attacker may as well sell this information or try to use it for her own personal gain. And the highest country average cost is United States. So by the, if we sort countries by average cost, United States suffers the most in terms of data breaches, and highest industry average is of 6.45 million in healthcare department itself. Industry average cost of data breach. Here, as we can see, there is a chart Here we said there is a bar chart of average total cost of a data breach by industry. So as you can see, out of all these industries like healthcare industries, financial, energy, industrial, pharma, all these industries, healthcare is in the top, standing in at 6.45 million, right? And if you see in the fifth position, the first position goes to healthcare, like the maximum losses suffered in a data breach is by healthcare industries. And in the fifth position, as you may see, it's pharma industries. So average total cost of data breach in healthcare industry is 6.45 million. And if you combine the healthcare industry and pharma industry, which is 5.20 million as a average data breach cost, 65%, the total cost is 65% higher than the total average cost of each data breach. Now, as we talk about data breaches, so we must first identify the assets which are critical to the industry. Like in order to have a security mechanism in place, you must first identify the pain areas in your, first you must identify the processes in your organization and how you are going to safeguard that process so that no data is being compromised. So here we have classified it under threat actors, which is nation state, hacktivists, cyber criminals, and insiders. So these are basically external threats which may pose threat to an organization. And here there are different processes of a healthcare industry from which a data breach can be carried out. So first, as you can see, personally identifiable information, medical device data theft. So this is basically the wearables we wear, all the patient generated health data is included in this. And then, as you can see, this is medical devices and wearables. So it's all about IoT and stuff. And next we come to physician's office. Then when it comes to physician's office, maybe your financial information is being concerned there. Maybe you're getting some prescriptions, you have paid fees to the doctor. All that data is critical, and as an organization, this must be safeguarded. Next is care providers. All these nursing homes, old age homes, all come under care providers. So here, as you can see, payer information theft. So here, new type of data is generated. The payer information, basically the information about the customers. So this too is to be secured. Next, in health insurance payer, again, financial data, medical claims fraud. So as we go to each and as we move on from left to right, each and every process brings some new form of data with it. And with some new form of data, it's our responsibility as cybersecurity professionals to help organization secure all this data about our customers, because we have to comply with certain standards, and we need to ensure that the customer data has been secure. Next is corporate strategic data theft, privacy breaches in the corporate, intellectual property theft. All this comes under the corporate process of healthcare industry. And then clinical research. Here, research data theft. Maybe you're developing maybe some sort of antibody, some sort of medicines. All this data is also critical assets for an organization, and it must be secured. Next is pharmacy, the prescription data, what all you have prescribed to your customers, the financial data, payer information, and personally identifiable information. And then last is service providers. And it's also the same here, data leakage, insider fraud. Now, current threats to healthcare industries, email and phishing attack. So if you may not know, if you have attended our previous lectures, a lot of our lectures have been focused on social engineering. A lot of our previous awareness sessions are focused on social engineering. The reason being, social engineering and email phishing attacks are the most common types of attacks, and majority of the user base, the majority of the people fall for it. So email phishing is just an attempt to trick a person to give out some personal information, some lucrative information using email. So let me give you a scenario here. Maybe a malicious attacker, a threat actor may try to send an email phishing attack to an employee of a healthcare industry organization. and he may unintentionally give out some personally identifiable information. Now, this is a small mistake that an employee of an organization has made, but it has some huge implications because it's just a small mistake, but still, personally identifiable information has been compromised, and then organization is liable for the security of customer information, and then they have to pay heavy fines to government due to these regulations like EU GDPR and HIPAA. This was email and phishing attack. Then comes the ransomware attack. So as I started this presentation, I focused upon ransomware attacks. So in the recent years, ransomware attacks are becoming more prevalent. Why are ransomware attacks becoming more prevalent? Because ransomware attacks focuses primarily on data. So what happens is, suppose you have a computer, your laptop, you have all your personal data in it, and one day suddenly all your data is encrypted. You cannot access any of your file, whether be it your videos, whether be it your photos, you cannot access any of them, and you get a message saying that you need to pay certain amount. If you pay certain amount, then only you can access your data. So it is the same thing, but in a huge scale. For example, an organization is being under a ransomware attack. All the personally identifiable information has been encrypted, and the organization can no longer access it. And the threat actor or the attacker threatens that they may leak this information to public, which would have disastrous consequences for the customers as well as the organization itself. So this is ransomware attack. Loss of equipment and data. So this also comes under bring your own device policy that I mentioned earlier. As more and more people are bringing laptops, tablets, mobile phones, USB devices, which may have some crucial information, which may have some critical personally identifiable information. If you're suppose you're carrying a thumb drive to your organization, suppose you're carrying a thumb drive which has some critical personally identifiable information, and suppose it gets stolen. Now you have no idea who has it, and all your personally identifiable information that was in that pen drive is now in someone else's possession, and it's a huge violation of such standards like HIPAA and EU GDPR. So it's also a major threat, I would say, to healthcare industry. And the next is insider accidental or intentional data loss. So in most of the corporates, also a major source of threat is like insiders. Like for example, you have 10 employees. Out of those 10 employees, 2 employees have access to personally identifiable information. Now it's the job of the organization, it's the job of the security professionals to ensure that adequate policies are in place in that organization, so that those 2 people who have access to personally identifiable information, they have access to critical information, they keep it with themselves and they don't try to leak that information. For example, employees, maybe disgruntled employees who are not very happy with their jobs, maybe they want to they are very unsatisfied with their jobs, now they want to leak the personally identifiable information, maybe they want to sell it for their own personal gains. So to prevent this, strong policies should be in place. So to summarize in this slide, the threats for healthcare industries are email phishing attacks, ransomware attacks, loss or theft of equipment, and insider accidental or intentional data loss. Wait, we have another. Attacks against connected medical devices that may affect patient safety. So for example, you have been connected to a patient is connected to a ventilator, maybe a heart rate monitor, and any IT enabled device that is helping the patient in some or the other way, whether be it his well-being, whether be it his survival, any IT device which is helping the current medical status of the patient. If suppose the device is connected to the internet, suppose the device is connected to a network, and if there is an hacking attempt and the hacker is able to compromise the medical devices that directly affects the life and the well-being of the patient, then it will have disastrous consequences for the patient itself. Because if an attacker gains access to the device which affects the healthcare, in this moment the patient is alive because this ventilator is going on, and if an attacker gets malicious access to that specific piece of device, then it has like very disastrous consequences. Like he has entire control whether this person lives or not. So it's extremely important that all these threats mentioned in these slides are adequately covered. And how can we adequately covered? We are going to discuss in more further slides. Next is building cyber resilience. So let me tell you the difference between cyber security and cyber resilience. So cyber security is all about preventing hacking attacks, any malicious data breaches. So it's all about that. And cyber resilience is strengthening your pillars so that in even if a data breach takes place, how can you revert to your standard business procedure with minimal impact? So basically the goal of cyber resilience is you don't try to prevent attacks. You try to prepare yourself so that even if an attack takes place, you have procedures in place to quickly step up after that attack and revert to your normal business procedures. So basically to have minimal uh, effects on your business is cyber resilience. So we are going to take a 360-degree approach and relentless focus on business impact. So right, previously we discussed about the assets which concern healthcare industry. So our main focus should be on business impact, on how we can get back to our normal business procedure in spite of a cyber security breach as soon as possible. Because your business is not to ensure cyber security, your business is to provide healthcare services. So the goal of cyber security resilience is to focus on business impact and to focus on issues, focus on risk, focus on assets that directly affects your business. So here is a template. Here's the standard procedure which is mostly followed in any cybersecurity resilience plan. So first off, your cybersecurity resilience plan should be business driven. All the threats to your business, all the malicious actors, all your assets should be adequately covered in your resilience plan. Next is threat centric, which is almost the same as resilience plan. As you may remember, in previous slides, we have had different sections like hacktivist, malicious insiders, insiders, then state hired hackers. Why do we have different categories? Because their motives are different and we have to focus on threats specifically. Next is adaptive responses. So why adaptive responses? Suppose you have a cybersecurity resilience plan is in place. Whenever a data breach occurs, you have the resilience security plan in place and you go according to the procedure so that you may revert to your standard business practices as soon as possible with minimal impact. But not all scenarios are created same. There might be some certain limitations with some, there might be some more complications in some data breaches. So your responses should be adaptive. You should adapt to the threat. Like if suppose the threat actors, the attackers are using new and new technology to affect your cyber security, to affect your business procedures. So you and your cyber resilience plan must adapt according to the attackers and according to your new technology and according to the situation, most importantly. And next is agile delivery, which is basically the fast delivery of services. Now healthcare value chain. So this is the same. So remember that I previously told you that you may assume that the data, yeah, the consumer generated data, whether be it your heart rate, whether be it your medical records, what disease you're diagnosed with, your prescriptions, your follow-up information. You may be thinking that only you as a customer, as a patient, and the healthcare information and the healthcare industry, only you two possess that data and no one else has access to the data, which is incorrect. And here we are going to show you like a flow chart of how your data is being given and circulated to third parties. So here you are here in the center, you are here as a patient. And first is medical devices and wearables, or the Internet of device things, whether it be your fitness trackers, your heart rate monitors, etc. So here you generate personally identifiable information, personal health information, patient generated health information. Then pharmacies, they have your information, payer information. Then care providers, they have your financial data. Then health insurance services, they have population data, medical claims data. Then physicians, as you can see, it's not as simple as you think. Your data is being circulated to multiple third parties for you may insurance purposes. They may say data analysis purposes, to improve your customer experience is what they usually say. So your data is never really secure. You just have to assume that your data is being transmitted to various places, and you just have to hope for the best. Because let me explain it further. Then, as I said, for clinical research purposes, for example, you have recently gone to a pathology lab and you got your blood tested. So you just assume that only the pathology labs and you have this report. But that report is sent to clinical research purposes also. Then it's also sent to private institutions for their own personal gain or their own research. Then government also for their survey and statistics and stuff. And then come the service providers. So here what we learn is basically your data is never ever with just two parties. It's always circulated to third parties for one reason or another, whether be it survey, whether be it research, whether be it insurance. Now, private healthcare value chain. So here, this is basically what we have showed in the previous slides, but here we have categorized everything according to the risk. Here, as you can see, pre-admission, before the patient has been admitted to the hospital, the wellness information. Here, as you can see, we have color coding, low risk, medium to high, medium risk and high risk. So here, as you can see, wellness is not like very crucial information, but online EMR records, appointments, those are very critical information. Then schedule is not very important. Physician interaction, all the prescriptions, all the like advice is given to you, everything is very crucial information. Then diagnosis information, whether you have been diagnosed with this disease. And if you have paid attention in that video that I showed you, he gets two phone calls. One was to order a pizza, and other was he gets a phone call that he has some anger issues. Now, suppose he was diagnosed with maybe a neural condition, whether he has excessive anger issues. Now, this is a personally identifiable information, and somehow uh, that healthcare provider in that video had access to that data, and he was advising the person to undergo treatment. So here, as you can see, diagnosis data is very crucial. Then pharmaceutical data, secondary, tertiary care, discharge data, all of these are very high risk data which needs to be secured at all costs. Then monitoring devices and well-being are also high risk, but they are not as important as diagnosis. And then physician interaction. Now I'm going to give you certain case studies in which um, after giving so many examples, after explaining so much slides, some of you may have a query that how exactly is the data generated. So in all these slides, I have only used I've only used few terms like your fitness tracker, your heart rate monitoring, your blood sugar level. Now I'm going to give you more examples how data is being collected and being used. So here the first case study is electronic health records. So first is healthcare organization network. Then here we have a cloud service provider. Don't worry, I will explain it to you in a while now. And here is patient's home, the patient itself. Yeah. So your health records, basically your diagnostic information, your follow-up information, everything your health records have been uploaded to cloud service provider. So to simplify this, for example, this is a hospital here, and here they are uploading your electronic health records to Google Drive, which is also cloud service provider. So why are they uploading to a cloud service provider? So that you too can digitally access your own data. So that is why they are uploading to the cloud service provider, and then you are downloading your electronic health records from the cloud service provider because it's your data and you may need it. And here, what comes under personal data? Your contact information, your the patient's name, address, telephone number, email. So now you know why this data is very crucial to be secured. Then contact information, information about relatives for emergency cases, social information number, medical appointments, medical examination results, pathologies, allergies. So allergies, diagnosis information, medical information, administrative and financial information. So when you read through this data, you might be reminded of that video that we saw when this our session began. So as we saw that lady almost had every possible information about that personal or about that customer, because she had access to his personally identifiable information. So all this comes under personally identifiable information. So now you know what data comes under personally identifiable information and why it should be protected. And the data subjects, the personal data about the patients, their relatives, the doctors, the nurses, and who are the recipients of this data, meaning who all access this data that is being uploaded, which is doctors and nurses for the treatment purposes, administration and accounting department, public health system, patients, and the purpose for them possessing this data is provision of healthcare services for diagnosis, treatment, and hospitalization. So basically, the hospital needs all this data for your well-being to cure you, and treatment planning and billing. So so what we are seeing is an ideal scenario in which there are only two parties here. It's just the hospital here, the cloud service, where the data is being uploaded and is secure there, and you are getting that data from the cloud service, and the same data is from the cloud service is being gathered by the healthcare service. There is no third party here. But in the previous slides, we saw that there is it's not always that simple. There is always third parties to which data is being transmitted to for research purposes, and also it becomes all the more crucial for security professionals. It becomes all the more crucial for healthcare professionals, for healthcare industries to protect such information, not only for their own well-being, not only to save money, but also for the customers themselves, and also for their reputation itself. Because once you are a part of a major data breach, it always forms like a bad impression for your organization. Like, this organization was part of a data breach. They don't take their customers' well-being, their customers' personally identifiable information seriously, their customers' privacy seriously. Then I will move on to the next case study. Next is the remote medical assistance. So what is remote medical assistance? So basically, we have to take appointment from a doctor. We tell them our problem. They try to diagnose you. They give you prescription. They tell you what to do, what not to do. So basically, all this happens in real life, but due to some recent circumstances, lockdown circumstances, remote medical assistance is becoming more and more popular. So what they do is they maybe online Skype call, and the doctor would be sitting in his or own cabin, and you at the comfort of your home, and the doctor is diagnosing you, not in real life, but using online calling methods, right? So remote method medical assistance is also becoming very popular. So here again, all your data from the hospital will be uploaded to the cloud service providers, so that you as customers, you as patients can also access that data. So here is what data which is being uploaded. Your contact information, because they obviously need it for diagnosis and purposes. The video recordings for research purposes. The video recording of your appointment, the diagnosis, and the transcription of recordings. Basically, like whatever I'm saying in text format is known as a transcript. Yeah, so transcription of this in recordings. So all this data is being uploaded to the cloud for various purposes, and all this data you can access. Now, data subjects are patients and medical professionals. Medical professionals who are diagnosing you, patients being you. Recipients of data is medical professionals, and you, which I forgot to mention here. And the data processor here is the cloud platform from which we can download and upload the data. And use case 3 is medical devices. Now, as I previously mentioned about IoT devices, fitness trackers, heart rate monitors, blood sugar level monitors, all these physical devices that measure different aspects of your well-being all come under medical devices. So here we have the same scenario. Here we have our healthcare organization, our platform as service cloud provider, and our patient itself. So here we suppose, this is somewhat of a different scenario. Suppose if I am a patient and I am wearing a fitness tracker, right? To measure my heart rate, to measure the sleep I get, the amount of calories I burned. So all that data which is stored in my fitness tracker is being uploaded to cloud service provider, and it's also sent to my mobile phone application. So as you may know, most of the fitness tracker comes with their mobile application. So what basically does it, your fitness tracker takes all your statistics, heart rate, your calories burned, number of steps, and display it in your mobile phone. So the same data that is being displayed in your mobile phone is uploaded to cloud as well. Now, why is it being uploaded to cloud? So that your physician, maybe your doctor can access that data and diagnose you properly. Suppose maybe you're having any cardiovascular issues, maybe you can't run for long. So all this data from a fitness tracker would be uploaded to cloud services, and from these cloud services, the healthcare organization will get access to your data and will diagnose you accordingly. So here I gave you 3 case studies in which how your data is being accessed, what all data is being sent. So here contact information, health data, heartbeat measurements, all that. Data subjects being patient, as we are in all these previous 2 scenarios. Healthcare organization was uploading the data and we were accessing it. Here it's a little bit different. We are uploading our data, not we. Our healthcare tracker, our fitness band is uploading the data, and the organization itself is accessing the data for diagnosis purposes. And recipients are medical professionals, and for processing purpose is, so we are using cloud for data processing, and the reason the data is with a healthcare organization is for diagnosis and all. So as I said, here in this entire presentation, I focused on mostly what are the issues about cyber resilience, what all issues needs to be covered, but we didn't talk about how we can actually implement it. We talked briefly about cyber resilience plan and what should be included in that, but here we have best practices based on NISA's procurement guide. So NISA is basically a standard similar to EU GDPR and HIPAA that we discussed about previously. NISA stands for the European Network and Information Security Agency. So these are basically the standards that you have to follow. Suppose you have a healthcare industry and you want to ensure that your customer data is safe and you are free from any sort of security breaches. So these are all the clauses that you need to ensure that are properly implemented. Identify security and data requirements, conduct risk assessment, data protection. So these are all that what you should do as an organization to secure yourself and your customers. So these are all the best practices. So NISA is not just one standard. There is also another standard known as ISO 27001 and many other standards. So for the sake of this presentation, I have included these standards. So basically, if any organization is seeking for protection for their data, to protect themselves from data breaches, so they need to follow certain standards like NISA here. So that was it from my side. Here are some references, the documents which I went through, the reports that I read in order to make this presentation. So first is a report by Accenture Security, then an IBM security report, and the NISA standards which I mentioned in the previous slides. And if you have any queries regarding this presentation, you may ask now. Any questions?
I think not at the moment I can see, but if there are any questions, you can raise it to us or connect back to us. So I'll just share my screen back again and give you some information where the resources that you can connect with us.
Right.
So just hold on a minute. Okay, so thank you all for your time and attention today and being with us today. So basically, we will be uploading details of this presentation and recordings on Facebook and LinkedIn sources that we have, our channels. So I will also share the same on our YouTube channel and share the information on LinkedIn. So please do follow up and reach out to us in case if you need more information on today's discussion or any other information that you need in terms of cybersecurity or assistance. So I think that's all for today. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.